Hello and welcome to another episode here at the latest with Law Simplified. I am your podcast host, Barry Nally, and today we're joined by an incredible guest. He is the head of public law at BHD Solicitors and a former refugee turned lawyer who is giving back by helping asylum seekers that enter the UK for a better future. Our guest joins us today to talk about the illegal migration bill and UK's immigration system at large. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a huge honour for me. I am delighted to present to you Qays Sediqi, Head of Public Law at BHD Solicitors and a profound human rights lawyer in the UK. Hello, Qays. Welcome to Law Simplified. How are you doing?
Hi, Farine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm good, thank you. A bit of a hectic day, but I'm look forward to speaking to you today.
Amazing. We're so delighted to have you today. And you said it's been a hectic day. So what does a day look like in your life as the head of public law at a law firm?
Yes, well, it depends as to whether I'll be working from the office and bank or whether I'm working from home. But a normal day is usually 9 o'clock, as that's when I start working. I go through my emails, prioritizing, compartmentalizing what I need to do for the day. And I get on with my day and whatever needs to be done. I see clients, I speak to clients over the phone, speak to various third parties, courts, tribunals. The GPs or anybody basically, and drafting letters, communicating, liaising, checking the paralegals' work, and yeah, supervising. So that's essentially what I do. And I finish at like 5 o'clock. I'm supposed to finish at 5 o'clock, but I go way beyond, so quite late at night. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Sounds very fun, by the way. I'm sure there'll be a lot of aspiring solicitors listening to this. So I'm sure they'll take a lot of interest in what you're doing and sort of how your day looks, really. So I think we can get started, Qays, and look at your journey. Now, you've been very open about the fact that you came to this country as a refugee. And you worked your way, you worked very hard to establish a successful career in law. Can you tell our audiences, give us a bit of a snapshot into your background and your journey into law, and I think more specifically your experience of navigating the asylum system in the UK, please?
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is that well, I'm originally ethnicity-wise, I'm from Afghanistan. Both my parents are Afghan. During the Cold War in the 80s, they moved to Pakistan, where I was born. I was 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old, when my father moved to Holland, where he claimed political asylum, and we joined him soon after, me and my mother and siblings. And my mother and father divorced, and following which we lived in a refugee camp in Holland, and we went through the whole system. We were granted asylum in Holland, and then around 2007, that's when we came to the UK as I suppose under the European sort of agreement that they had in place at the time before Brexit. So that's how I came here. And I mean, for me, I've never been in the asylum system in the UK, but I can only speak from the Dutch asylum system, which is not that much of a difference, to be honest. And I was fairly young at the time, but I could see the stress, anxiety, and the overwhelming pressure my mother was under at the time. And she couldn't speak the language. She was far removed from her family. All of them were in Pakistan or scattered around the world. She was on her own. She had 3 little children, and she had to navigate her way through. So it was a scary and daunting sort of journey for her. And when she explains this to me, I cannot fathom and understand how she was able to go through that. A single mum barely being able to speak the language. But I do remember that these solicitors at the time dealing with the divorce, they were family solicitors, and one gentleman in particular, he struck me a lot, and he the work that he was doing, the way he was sort of communicating with us, and treating us, it was very in a respectful and kind manner. And I was just like, at that stage, I was like, I want to be like him when I grow older. Little did I know what it was. Didn't know that they were solicitors or whatever, but I was like, I want to be like him, because he made my mother feel at ease and took that sort of weight off our shoulders in some sense. So yeah, so that's how I basically this interest was sparked in me to do law. But then there were some complications and whatnot through the way, like most stories. But yeah, that's how I started.
How incredible. And that inspired you to become a human rights lawyer. And today you are helping so many people that go through the asylum system in the UK. Can you tell us about some of your experiences now representing parties that are going through the asylum system in the UK?
Well, asylum seekers are one of the most vulnerable groups of individuals in the UK or in any society in the world, and they are traumatized, vulnerable, and they're very like emotionally and most of the time also physically damaged, and it's very and those are the types of individuals that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. So it's a privilege and honor for me to deal with them and understand them, and being able to listen to their story and writing the story and making sure that their story is properly communicated to the courts and tribunals. So for me, it's a very special relationship I have with my clients, because, as explained, as you've rightfully explained yourself, I've been through the process myself, and I've seen how it affected my mother and myself as a child. So when children come now, they, I'm very comfortable with them. I make sure that they're fine. So some of the parents even give the babies to me. So I've had babies in my lap and doing statements with them, and watching Baby Shark on the phone or whatever. So it's just like it's nice to have that now, to be able to give back, and making sure that they don't have the sort of bad experiences that I had growing up as a child. So it's a privilege and an honor for me to do that. But the actual clients are so they're so vulnerable. I can't express in words how vulnerable. And it's with this whole immigration system and scheme in place at the moment, and the sort of antagonistic approach taken by the current government towards asylum seekers, it's revolting, and it's distasteful and abhorrent, to be honest. And it makes me feel very bad for them, because I know what they're going through. They're not just statistics or numbers to me. They're people. They have a story. They have dreams. They have hopes. They have all these ambitions for the future, for themselves, for the children, for the family. So I see them like that. I don't see them as statistics or figures or people crossing over in the boat. I look at them as individuals, and I think that the current government is missing that human element to these asylum seekers, which is why it's so easy for them to say these things and come up with these egregious sort of bills and acts that they're proposing. So the clients come to me for comfort and asking me for advice and guidance when this bill or the 2022 Act was promulgated. So they come to me, and I've seen the sort of emotional toll it has on them, and it's quite sad and upsetting for me to have to go through that. So I can only imagine what it's like for them.
Absolutely. And actually, something what you've just said there, Kay, is that you're seeing the real emotion that people like me don't see, and people that are watching this podcast don't see. So lawyers like you, who are helping people through the asylum system, get to see the first-hand effect of these bills that this government is introducing. Do you say that the asylum system in the UK is broken, and that there's a lot that needs to be done? What do you think?
Absolutely. We've been lobbying and speaking out on this for such a long time. The asylum system is broken. The immigration system is broken, and nothing is being done. And instead of doing something about it, they're making it worse. They're exacerbating it. which is not good. I mean, the first thing that pops into mind is the asylum backlog. There's a huge backlog of asylum cases. So, and they keep referring to these numbers, which have been outstanding since 2015, and to inflate the figures to show that and sort of include them in the numbers of individuals who illegally come to the UK. And so people look at it, oh, there's over 200,000 people or whatnot, but they don't understand that most of them are in the asylum backlog, and they're not just new arrivals. So the asylum backlog needs to be cleared, and the Home Office have come up with this initiative of certain countries their asylum case being processed quickly, expeditiously. Afghanistan, Syria, Sudan, all these other countries that they want to expedite. But I've posted about this as well, and the asylum claim questionnaire. It's a difficult questionnaire to go through. I mean, even some lawyers are writing to me and asking me what do I need to do with this questionnaire. So imagine being someone who doesn't speak the language, who can't navigate their way in the asylum system. There's a shortage of asylum legal aid lawyers in the UK as well. So all these difficulties and pressure put on these individuals, it can really have a huge impact on someone's mental health, on their general well-being. So even though the Home Office have introduced this sort of new system and that has come up, which has newly been introduced around 2 weeks ago, I don't think it's beneficial. It's not doing anything. It's still going through the whole motions, because they should just grant them. And because I've had individuals whose cases have been outstanding since 2015, and the Home Office have been given with all the documents and everything like that, but they're still outstanding, so nothing is being done. So they should be granted. If you can prove that you're Afghan, you can't send someone back to Afghanistan in the current climate, or certain other countries. So they should just automatically be granted. And then again, with this new bill, there's so much I can say about this new bill, but I'll just keep the questions to yourself. But yeah, that in essence, in general, the asylum system, the immigration system is broken in the UK.
And it's actually a sad state of affair. The country that we talk about and advocate human rights and liberties, and we're very proud of that. But as a country, we let down people that are fleeing persecution, that are fleeing disasters in their home country, people that are qualified. There are a lot of lawyers, accountants, doctors that have to make that move. Unfortunately, they have to flee their country because it's a matter of life or death, really. Thank you so much for that insight, Qays. I want to say at this stage, if anybody requires any immigration help, do reach out to Qays Sediqi. He is the head of public law at Barnes Harrild Dyer Solicitors. He's also on social media. We all watch and see you on social media, Qays. Thank you so much for really sharing what is happening in the immigration space. As I said, you see that as people that aren't practicing the law. We're not able to unfortunately see the state of our immigration system, and it's very important that we do see it and that we do stand up and advocate against it when there's a need to.
Thank you.
Move on to Illegal Migration Bill 2023, which will see refugees that enter the UK illegally being removed from the UK and or detained without being able to apply for a bail for 28 days. Could you tell our audiences, what is this bill and what will this mean for refugees that come to the UK?
Well, I mean, we first need to understand why this bill is being proposed. So this bill is being proposed to reduce illegal boat crossings into the UK and to deter traffickers from being able to traffic individuals into the UK. But when this bill was announced, I was having a bit of a deja vu moment, because it was only less than 1 year ago when the 2022 Act was introduced and promulgated, and the whole point of that act was to do the same thing, to reduce the number of boat crossings and to deter traffickers from trafficking individuals into the UK. It's been a year now, nearly a year. nobody has been removed to Rwanda. Nothing has been done under the 2022 Act. So, I mean, the Rwanda litigations, which I'm also part of, are still ongoing, with no end in sight. We have a Court of Appeal hearing next month. So there's no end in sight because neither party is going to back down. So we're going to see it all the way through. So, and the Home Office internal sort of review that they did, they also confirmed that they can't foresee a plane to Rwanda taking off until March 2024. So this bill that was this act that was introduced last year to have the same purpose, and nothing being done. What is so different about this illegal migration bill that's going to sort of make sure that all the shortcomings are looked after from the 2022 Act? So and the question is that there's nothing. The bill is just inhumane. It's a human rights breach. I mean, it says it at the top, at the beginning of the bill itself. The Suella, the Home Secretary, she says that she cannot promise whether the bill is in contravention with the European Convention on Human Rights. Essentially saying, I can't promise whether people's human rights will be breached. I mean, how crazy is that? I mean, to even put that in the bill, and that's the first thing you see when you read the bill. And this is something that she is proposing to introduce into our immigration and asylum system. It's just mind-boggling. It's something that I still can't compute myself, where the person admits that there's going to be breaches, but she's still going ahead with it. But yeah, in essence, as you've explained, they are the aim of it is to reduce a number of illegal boat crossings, and people coming into the UK, women, children, men, they're going to be arrested and detained immediately. Doesn't matter age, gender, or whatever, you're going to be detained in a detention center. So that's the first thing that's going to happen. And you can't apply for bail for the first 28 days. So you're just going to be stuck in limbo in a detention center, bearing in mind you've just had a perilous and traumatizing journey to come to the UK. And you're being stuck in a confined space with no access to support whatsoever. So you can't apply for bail for 28 days. The asylums, if you do claim asylum, you can't claim asylum because you get an inadmissibility decision. So you're expected to be removed to the first safe country that you travel to, or to Rwanda. So that's what they're proposing. Or unless you want to be removed to your own country, which nobody would want to do. If you're fleeing persecution, you can be removed there. So that's what they're proposing. But we just have to look at what the options available are. So as I explained, they can't go back to their own country because that's where they're fleeing persecution. They can't be removed there. First safe country, nowhere does it say that you have to claim asylum in the first safe country you're in. It doesn't say it anywhere. But most individuals and most of my clients, 95% of my clients, have traveled through Europe to come to the UK. We're no longer part of Europe anymore after Brexit. So we don't have the Dublin III regulations, which were repealed when Brexit happened. So we don't have access to the Eurodac database, which has the fingerprints, and you can communicate with the European countries and whatnot. So we're no longer part of that. So you can't be removed to the first safe country. The Rwanda litigation, as I explained, is still ongoing. Nobody has been removed there. Loads of money has been wasted, but nobody has been removed. And we don't know when the sort of legal proceedings are going to come to a conclusion. We don't know. So they're just essentially being stuck in this system, probably in a detention center for 28 days. As I explained, children, women, men, vulnerable individuals, people with mental health issues, they're being stuck in this place. And people are just going to be saying, I can already foretell, oh, they're costing us money, they're taxpayers' money and things like that. But we just have to we have to put our logical hat on and just think about the situation. These people are stuck in the system. They're fleeing persecution. Why are they being persecuted or victim or basically antagonized for being for claiming asylum or or basically not wanting to be removed to their own country where they're facing persecution. So, and it's their human right to do that. So it's just diabolical, the bill itself. And the UNHCR, which is responsible for the international asylum, the international community for asylum seekers, they've actually also confirmed that the bill is illegal. They cannot go ahead with it. So because it will breach several people's human rights. So, and all in all, when you look at it from every direction, it just red flags everywhere. So I don't know how it's going to proceed, but I really do hope that it's not going to see the light of day. But we saw that it had the second reading a week ago, so that they proceed. But hopefully, it will be cut at the roots and never comes into the immigration system.
Fingers crossed, Kays, fingers crossed. You've told us about the impacts of the bill on different groups of people. What do you think is the impact on victims of trafficking? What will this bill do you think?
So the bill itself has confirmed that it will restrict people from accessing the modern slavery system, which is a huge concern for everyone, especially immigration practitioners like myself, because we understand the victims, because we've had dealings with them before, and we understand what the system is like. It's not like, and I'm speaking from my personal experience myself. I've dealt with a lot of victims of trafficking. It's not just like they come up to you and say, "Hey, I'm a victim of trafficking." It's a long process for someone to be able to unravel and even being comfortable to mention it to someone, because it's something traumatic that has happened to them. It has taken away dignity from them, and it's not something to easily come to terms with. So it's not something coming forthright to you and saying, "I'm a victim of trafficking." So I always, in every attendance, I explain to them, this is what trafficking is. At any point, if you do feel that that what has happened to you resonates with what I'm telling you, then please let me know. So I've had people after 10 attendances telling me that they're a victim of trafficking. It takes time to build a rapport with someone, to build that trust with someone else, to share a huge part of themselves, something vulnerable about themselves with another human being, another new person that they don't know anything about. So it takes a long time. So it's not just like in the first day they tell you, I'm a victim of trafficking. So they're missing that. And it's concerning that they are trying to limit people from accessing it, because it should be accessible to everyone. Everyone should be allowed, and legally everyone is allowed and should access the modern slavery system. So that's a huge concern from a legal and moral perspective, I would say.
You heard Theresa May say that okay, so we can stop people from coming to the country via the English Channel, in small boats and vessels, but there'll be other ways that they will find to come into the country. So it appears, I don't know if you agree with me, Kay, is that, for example, the Rwanda bill, the government paid millions of pounds to Rwanda. They've already paid that amount, and that is hard-earned money of our tax money that they've used to do that. So it appears here very clearly that all that the government is doing is really burning money here by putting out bills that have no substance, can't be implemented, are illegal, do breach human rights law and the international laws, and effectively really at our detriment, when it could all easily be solved by giving people asylum, and these people are simply wanting to just have a right to live their life peacefully. And as I've said, many that are qualified, they are professionals that can contribute towards a country. So it just appears very pointless, doesn't it?
No, absolutely, it does. I mean, that's the sort of what they see is, I mean, you've probably seen on social media as well, what they send is loads of this person raped this person and whatnot. But that's not, I mean, those people are being dealt with. They go through the criminal justice system, they serve their sentence, and then they're being deported. Rightfully so. anybody who commits a crime or anybody who doesn't respect our laws in this country in terms of the criminal justice system, they're going to be dealt with according to the law. But the other individuals, there's so many other individuals, majority of them, I would say over 90% of them, are actual genuine asylum seekers who want to get on with their life, contribute, look after their family, feel safe, and just have a normal life. And that's all they want to do. And they're just being pigeonholed with all these other people who are so-called bad people. And it's a shame, really, because they can contribute so much. And I went to the doctors just a week ago, and I had a chat with someone and with the doctor, and he told me how he was an asylum seeker. Because I told him what I do. He asked me what I do, and I told him what I do, and I showed him my social media. And then he tells me that he's also an asylum seeker. He used to be an asylum seeker, and how he, similar to me, wants to help other people now. So you never know who's an asylum seeker, who's not, who was a refugee or who wasn't. So and they're contributing now, and they're a great asset. And we saw during COVID how much of how much we relied on the NHS and the doctors and the nurses and whatnot. So they do really contribute, and they're not uneducated or anything. Majority of them are educated individuals. They've had a good life in their own countries, or they had a good job, they had a good way of living, but it's just that circumstances rendered them to flee their country and seek protection somewhere else. And if nobody would want to leave their own homes or countries if it wasn't absolutely necessary, if their lives weren't at risk, to leave their families, their homes, their sort of their childhood, their everything, leaving all of that behind to move to a foreign country. Nobody would do that if it wasn't absolutely necessary. And I think that people are missing that and don't understand that. And one thing I want to clarify, Farina, as well, like earlier I said that we don't have any sort of agreements with the European countries following Brexit. But a couple of weeks ago, I think Rishi Sunak struck a deal with France where they agreed that the UK will pay them £480 million if they essentially assist us with this illegal boat crossings. So France essentially taking care of our problems. So we're just passing the buck to France and saying, okay, deal with this issue that we're having. So France has agreed for £480 million to keep these individuals who are trying to cross into the UK illegally, to keep them in detention facilities or prisons, I don't know. But so they're going to be prosecuted if they are trying to cross into the English Channel. But why do we need to do that? £480 million is a lot of money. Why is that not being pumped into our current economy and helping with your own people and basically putting it to good cause, rather than penalizing and, as I said, antagonizing these vulnerable individuals and giving another country the money to deal with our problems when we're not facing it ourselves. So all that money can go into the clearing the asylum backlog, into many things, into the hotels and whatnot. So you can do so much with that, and I don't think that it's a solution for us to essentially pass the buck to France and have them deal with it. But that is another thing that's been proposed or actually been agreed in the last couple of weeks.
We heard you say, Qays, that there's a bigger agenda here, and you said that during an interview with Al Jazeera. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
What I meant is that this known public secret agenda, political agenda, I mean, history has taught us this, that whenever it comes close to a general election, or there is a general election, one wants to outshine the other so that they get the votes. And it's always been the target audience has been, or the focus has been placed on the most vulnerable individuals in society. And as what better way to shift the focus on the most vulnerable in society, in our society, which is the asylum seekers who can't talk back, who can't fight back or anything. So that's what they're essentially doing. They're trying to get votes. They're trying to appeal to a certain dynamic, to a certain group of individuals who want to see this through. So knowing that these individuals can't fight for themselves or speak up. So it's important for me to be able to, in whatever capacity or in the limited capacity that I have, or the limited individuals that I have access to or who are following me, to actually speak up for these individuals, because I think it's important for me to do that. Having lived through that experience myself and essentially understanding it now in much more detail, understanding the law, the immigration laws, the asylum laws, understanding everything. It's my duty. I feel like it's my duty to be able to speak up for them and quote unquote educate people on what the right law is and what the current situation is. So that's why I post on these platforms, and so that people will understand. Maybe one or two people will change their minds and really understand or look into it in more detail. Because what you hear on the news and whatnot is not always right. Do your own research. Try to look into it. Look at the figures yourself. Look at the laws yourself. Look at the regulations. Everything like that. Look at that yourself rather than relying on someone else's words. So I think it's important to be able to speak out. And the beauty of this current social media is that you can reach so many people with just your phone. So it's really important to speak up for the vulnerable individuals, and there's a bigger agenda. There is a general election coming up. There's I believe rumors floating around. So they're just trying to appease and appeal to these to individuals who have something against asylum seekers. I don't know, but unfortunately, it seems to be the majority. But I genuinely think that they don't understand the severity or the depth of the current situation. They're just relying on other people's words, and that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to provide them with the information from a legal and personal perspective, and trying to get to them. But well, not try to get to them, but just to give them the option that this is also an option. It's not just this, it's also this. Now you make up your mind, rather than just having one option to pick. So it's for me to provide them with that sort of option. And it's important for me to be able to do that.
And you know, thank you so much for doing that, Kays, because as I said, you're educating people like me. I see your posts and I think, oh my goodness, okay, this is what's happening in the immigration space. So I cannot stress enough, please follow Kays on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, because I do see, you know, some great posts that you put out, and you educate us about what's happening in the immigration space. And it's so vital that we all know that, which is entirely the reason that I founded Law Simplified. It's to educate people about the law. It's to empower them, which is exactly what you're doing as well, Kays.
And can I just also say that I believe that what you're doing is super important. I mean, when I was a student at university, we never had anything like this before, and it would have been nice to be able to hear from other lawyers, barristers, judges, or whatever, to hear from them from a personal. On a personal level, or from a legal perspective, to be able to listen to that. I would have probably listened to this, and it would have made a huge difference in how, and myself, I don't know, but it's really important that students do listen to these types of podcasts. It will broaden your mind. It will broaden your knowledge. It will be more beneficial than disadvantageous. So make use of this. And I wish I had something like this when I was at university. And I believe that that's why I try to share personal things from myself, because I was hearing stuff, but not the right things that I needed to hear. I was hearing all these people going to Oxbridge University and then going on to a Magic Circle, Silver Circle companies and things like that. It really put me off. I mean, I graduated with a 2-2 university degree. I failed the first year of my university. I didn't want to do law, but I'm a perfect example of someone who has essentially learned to love what I do. Yeah. And and look at me now, essentially. So I'm doing like thank God and thank for everyone who's been supporting me, who has been there throughout the journey. It's all on them. It's nothing. I'm just a vessel, and it's all due to them. And I'm doing good. I've got a good job. I love what I do, and I make. I'm essentially, hopefully, making a difference to essentially something I truly believe in.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much as well, Farine, for doing this.
No, Kays, thank you. And obviously we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing without people like you that give up their time to us. So thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing all of what you have today. I'm, very touched. I might get emotional, Kays, because I always do when somebody says that, that they like the idea, the concept that it can help people. That's all I need to hear, and that's my feel to keep going with this. So thank you very much for that. I just want to touch on one last thing in terms of illegal migration bill. Before asking for your closing comments, if I may. There's been a lot about unaccompanied children that
Mhm.
are into the country. I think we've heard the Home Secretary say that the law wouldn't apply to them. If this becomes the law and the bill passes both houses, that unaccompanied children will be able to stay in the country until they're 18 and then be removed. So I don't know if that is right, Kays, and if there's been any changes to the situation, but these are children that have no guardians, no parents. They're absolutely on their own and are vulnerable to being trafficked.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, currently there is a rule in place where unaccompanied asylum-seeking children, if they are refused, they get granted status up until 17 and a half, and then they have to apply for an extension to that or a longer leave. So the law essentially hasn't changed much, but I would take everything that the Home Secretary is saying with a pinch of salt, because I don't necessarily believe her. So knowing what she's capable of, or the thoughts that she's capable of having. So I don't believe her. So this is news to me as well. But I don't believe that until it becomes law. I don't believe what they're saying. So at the moment, the way it is that, as I explained, unaccompanied asylum-seeking children, if they get refused, they get status up until 17 and a half, and then they can apply for refugee status. But I don't know if you've heard about this as well, but couple of months ago, there was which made big headlines and big news that children were disappearing from hotels. So essentially children were disappearing from hotels. So that was just in the headlines for one day, made a bit of noise and died down. But those children are still missing. So we're letting those children down. They're children. So if that is the sort of treatment that we're expecting from the Home Office in relation to children, then I can only fear what's to come, because nothing is being done about these children at the moment, from my understanding, from what I have seen. Nothing is being done. There's no sort of investigation being carried out. These children can be trafficked or re-trafficked if they've already been trafficked. So there's so many things happening, and it's a big concern for us, for any for the public. I would hope so. Who are concerned for the children. So yeah, so that's the take that the Home Office has on these children, and I don't necessarily believe what the Home Office are saying in relation to that with this new bill.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't come across that article about missing children. I think it disappeared very quickly.
Yes. So that's what I mean.
Yeah, so there's censorship around this, around the failing asylum system in the UK. There's been lots about the poor state of the hotels and accommodation that asylum seekers are provided. It's very sad to see that they are effectively being subjected to second, third grade treatment, really, because all they want to do, as you've already said today, Kay, is simply want to live their life.
Yeah.
And that's all they want to do. So we saw that you were in the Parliament Square recently. There was a protest going on against the bill. Have Can I ask you for any closing comments for the public members, people that have watched this podcast that have sort of changed their mind about this new bill and want to get involved in these protests? What would you like to say to those people?
What I would say is engage. Try, even if you can't attend these protests, use your platform. Use your platform or any way you can to educate people. And for the people, and I want to send this message to specifically to the individuals or people who are for this bill and who are against migration into the UK or illegal migration into the UK. I would tell them, speak to someone who is a refugee or an asylum seeker. Try to understand them. Try to listen to their story with an open heart and have an honest conversation with them, because it can change you. I mean, it's so some of the stories that I've heard are so powerful and impactful that it changes your perception about yourself. So do that, and I would like hugely encourage you to speak to someone if you can, to a former asylum seeker or a former refugee or a current refugee, even or asylum seeker. Try to speak to them and ask them about what they think about this bill, how they came to come to the UK, because there's so many there's so much that people don't know. And they just make up their minds from what they read, for snippets of things that they read, that they, as I explained in the beginning, that they forget about the human touch, about the human element to someone's case or story. So I would hugely encourage someone who is for the bill and against these boat people, as they call them, try to speak to them and see them as, and have an honest conversation. So that would be my biggest advice. And for others who want to participate and actually be able to do something about this, it doesn't matter if you have 1 follower, 2 followers, 20, 40, 50, 20,000 followers, doesn't matter. Even if you can reach one person with one view, you've put yourself out there, and you've made sure that that person, that your message is out there. So try to post, try to like, try to share. That's what I try to do as well. Try to do all of that so that it reaches a wider audience, so that more people are aware of the message that you're trying to send. Because there's a lot of bigotry going around, and many people don't actually understand what is going on. They just believe that, and I've had this before, someone telling me, oh, because my mum believes this, I believe a similar thing. And I'm just like, no, that's not how it works. Make up your own mind, read about it yourself, make some time, rather than spewing hate at someone. Try to understand them and come to your own conclusions.
Will you be going to any more protests in Parliament Square? Are there any more protests going on?
Well, not that I'm aware of at the moment, but we will definitely be holding more protests. So look out for posts and things like that. I will definitely be posting about it. But I'm hoping that there will be more protests. I mean, Zoe Gardner, she's an amazing human being. If you don't follow her on Twitter, to follow her. She's the one who actually came up with the idea of holding the protest a couple of weeks ago, and she did it on very short notice, with over the weekend, quickly organizing everything, and it was a huge success with a huge turnout. So kudos to her. But we need more of this, and I'm hoping that that we're able to come up with more protests and organizing demonstrations, because it's important to get the message out. And it's lovely to see people in Glasgow, Manchester, Birmingham, all these other places organizing these protests, even if it is in a small number, but we're hugely proud of them, and like for the message they're trying to convey and try to portray. Yeah, kudos to them as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much today for joining us, Qays. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And obviously we'll be following you, we'll be watching and reading all the updates that you put out. And thank you so much for educating us about the illegal migration bill, because there's so much to it. And as you've said, there's a lot of biased reporting on it. You know, there's some censorship going on that people don't really get to see the true effect of it. And thank you for telling us about the human impact, the human element of it all, which we don't get to see at home, the impact of refugees and people that are going through the system. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for like not interrupting me and for me being able to say what I want to say, because sometimes these podcasts and stuff is quite difficult to do that. So to get the message across, and then sometimes it gets lost in translation as well. But yeah, so thank you so much for having me as well, Farine, and for the work that you do. You're an incredible human being. So thank you as well for everything that you stand for and do.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There we have it, Qays Sediqi. Do make sure to follow Qays on all social media platforms, as he regularly posts about everything that's happening within the immigration space. So it's great to be following Qays. We follow him, so you must too. Do also follow Law Simplified on all social media platforms, inclusive of TikTok, and do please subscribe to this channel. We are going to be bringing to you heavyweight guests over the next coming weeks and months. Do head on to our website at www.law-simplified.co.uk to check out all our resources. And remember, whatever you do, please do keep in contact with the law. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your podcast host, Farine Ali, and I can't wait until I see you on the next one. Take care.